Residency drama changes the Detroit Mayoral Race. Plus, the city's emergency manager tells Detroit residents just how bad it is. Also tonight, the man behind the NSA leak. Would you call him a hero or a traitor? It's all coming up right now on MiWeek.
Michigan's turnaround is being powered by things we do better than anywhere else in the world. Today's global leaders routinely turn to Michigan to work on their most difficult problems. That's because the engineering talent in this part of the world is simply the best. So many possibilities lie ahead for Michigan's future. These opportunities are here and starting to happen. The vision for the new Michigan. Share it, talk it up, drive it home.
A route map shows you where we go, but not how we get there. Because in this business, there are no straight lines, only the twists and turns of an unpredictable industry. So the 80,000 employees at Delta must anticipate the unexpected and never let the rules overrule common sense. This is how we tame the unwieldiness of air travel, until it's not just lines you see, it's the world.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Christy McDonald. In a week where Detroit's emergency manager is meeting with creditors to hopefully set the path for the city's financial recovery, a recovery that, if all goes well, will be turned over to the next mayor to guide, the race for the future of the city's leadership has taken a dramatic twist. One of the frontrunners could be out. A Wayne County Circuit Court judge ruled that Mike Duggan didn't live in the city for a full year before he filed to run for mayor last April and should be off the ballot. Duggan's camp says he had lived in the city a year by the filing deadline in May. Small details that may make a big difference. We will start there tonight, and here to talk about it all are MiWeek contributors Nolan Finley of the Detroit News and Stephen Henderson of the Detroit Free Press. Guys, how are you this week?
Doing well.
So interesting. Stephen, when we've talked about the entire mayoral race, you keep bringing up, well, what if things change? What if the ballot looks drastically different by the primary? And there you go.
There you go. I don't write stuff without knowing what I'm talking about. Yeah, no, I said last month that I wanted Dave Bing in the mix for this election, because one of the things I was worried about was whether the field, as it's configured now, would be the field that we'd see on August 6th when we go vote. As of right now, it won't be. You have a major candidate, probably the second or leading candidate in the field off the ballot, and if that stands, I think it's a much weaker field. I think there are not a lot of great choices at all. There weren't a lot of great choices to begin with, but this is one fewer. Dave Bing may be one of the people sitting around going, you know what, I probably should have put my hat in there. Just as a contingency.
All right, so but Mike Duggan plans to appeal this.
He plans to appeal, and he'll very likely win. I doubt the appellate court will interpret election law as being a gotcha game. Election law exists to help make the process fairer and to facilitate democracy, not to disqualify candidates on the basis of technicalities and narrow readings of the law. The Charter Commission members say their intent was the filing deadline. Of course, this charter is such a mess, there is no rationality to it. But I would say that this is just another little bump, a nuisance, and the appeals court will put him back on the ballot, as they should. The rule says, you know, a year and a day after you register to vote, you have to, you can't file before that. He interpreted that as meaning a filing deadline. That's why he registered to vote in Detroit when he did. And I think the appeals court will interpret it as filing deadline. You're not going to punish somebody for being efficient.
All right, before we talk about what this does to Mike Duggan's campaign, even if he is put back on the ballot, Nolan says the charter's a mess. Is the Detroit charter a mess?
The charter's a mess, and one of the interesting things out of the opinion from the judge yesterday is that she said this phrase was unambiguous and clear, which I think is the last thing anybody would say about almost anything in the chart. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could interpret the things in that chart. In fact, one of the ways you could interpret the very section she's looking at is that anybody who's lived in the city for more than a year would also be disqualified, because it says will have lived in the city for 1 year. It doesn't say for at least 1 year. So I mean, I think you can pretty much tie yourself up in legal knots by reading things as literally as she has, and I don't think that's what the appellate courts will do. I think she's looking at the text and saying that the legislative history doesn't matter because the text is clear. I don't think it's as clear as she does, and I don't think the appellate court will either.
Yeah, but if you're Mike Duggan, you're looking at it, she's like, oh man, I can't believe that this actually got to this point. Even if he does get himself back on the ballot, Nolan, does this damage his campaign?
No, I don't think so. I think it'll be a temporary blip. Look who filed this. This was filed by Tom Barrow, a long shot candidate, doesn't have a chance in the world of prevailing in the primary, whether Duggan's on or not. And Robert Davis, a serial lawsuit filer, funded by the unions, whose sole aim is to continue the chaos in Detroit. And I think voters will see through that. I doubt Duggan loses any support because of this issue.
I think it could hurt him. I think it plays into his weakest trait, which is the idea that somehow he's a carpetbagger, moved into the city at the last minute to try to take over. There are a lot of people who push that narrative, who now will have at least one court opinion to back that argument up. And if he fights to get himself back on the ballot, what they'll say is, see how desperately he wants to take over. See how desperately outsiders want to run Detroit.
I think people see this as a fairness. Remember, these people who filed the lawsuit are the same ones who are squealing the loudest about the loss of democracy and voter suppression, and that's what this is. This is cheating Detroiters of a democratic choice, and it certainly is vote suppression.
I want to get back to the point that you made in the beginning of the conversation about Mayor Dave Bing, and if he knew that Mike Duggan perhaps would not be on the ballot, do you think that would have changed his mind at all?
I don't know. I mean, I do think that ultimately the mayor's decision was very personal. That he's 70 years old. This 4 years has taken a real toll on him. I think they also looked at their internal numbers for his support, which Duggan or no Duggan were not great. But I also think that if you're sitting in that chair now trying to manage the city or trying to help with the emergency management, you see Duggan exit the race, it will give him a second thought, I think, about whether he should have put his hat in, and what city, who is he going to leave? Who's he leaving this city to is going to be one of the questions that'll start gnawing at him.
Of course, Nolan is frantically shaking his head no over here. He just keeps nodding no.
I don't think it would have changed the mayor's decision at all. I think he was done with it. And he dreaded the idea of a grueling, bitter race. That was going to be the case whether Mike Duggan was in it or not. I think he had taken this thing as far as he was prepared to take it and is more than comfortable with his decision to get out. And again, Mike Duggan's out today. He's not going to be out when this thing hits. He may not be out.
Yeah, he may not be out. So what is the actual path now? He appeals.
I think you appeal. Well, I'm not sure if he can emergency appeal to the Supreme Court, which I would imagine you can, because this is something that's got to be settled pretty quickly. You don't have time to go through the appeals court and then to the Supreme Court. But I would imagine that this will get done, I would say, inside a week and a half, because
so they can firm up the ballot. Yeah, by the time
time is frittering away when he should be campaigning.
And
well, you know what?
Continue to campaign.
No one ever said it was dull. That Detroit politics were dull, right?
Although this kind of stuff,
has to be something.
It's a little banana republic. Some of this stuff. I mean, I get tired of the constant, second guessing. Nothing is ever final. You can always keep arguing your point even after you've lost. We got to get to the point where we're not doing that all the time.
All right, and it's going to play out over the next couple of days. Now to emergency manager Kevyn Orr in the first public meeting he had since coming to Detroit. Orr addressed a crowd at Wayne State University on Monday. It was something that was required by him by law for him to do. And he's ending the week meeting with creditors to see if he can avoid bankruptcy for the city of Detroit. Before we get to those big creditor meetings happening this week, let's talk about his, addressing the crowd this week. How did he do, Nolan?
Well, he did okay, and the crowd was far more civil, perhaps, than a lot of folks accepted. I mean, this guy has not wavered from his message that we have a very serious fiscal problem here. We have a disaster, actually, and that it's going to take extremely hard measures to fix it. He's not sugarcoated that from the beginning, and he didn't the other night. And I would expect in dealing with the creditors, he's not going to do that either.
Yeah, he didn't give us it wasn't any breaking news about the situation the city is in. What kind of job do you think he did in that announcement?
I think he did okay. I mean, I think I would have liked to see them hold it in a bigger place, let more people in. I mean, I think anything you do that shuts people out lends credence to this
perception
idea
of
that
trying to hide
somehow
something.
You're an overlord here, not responsive to people. But I mean, he was very responsive to the people who asked questions, and he didn't mince words. You know, I mean, people asked some pretty tough questions of him, and he said, "Look, this is the situation we're in. Here's how we got here, and here's how I plan to get us out." I think at this point, we can't do anything but give him some credit and give him a little leeway to see how this works. I mean, we've given everyone else 30, 40, 50 years to screw it up. This guy's had 2 months, and he's already got a plan to turn it around.
Yeah, and the more you look at this, and we've said this before, the more it looks like bankruptcy. The pension funds, one of the key creditor groups he's going to be meeting with, set aside $5 million out of that pension fund to fight anything Kevyn Orr tries to do in terms of the pension fund. I mean, the first step he should take would be to disband that board and turn the pension fund over to the state system, as have been done in Flint and other places. He's got to. It's corrupt. They're going to fight him with the retirees' own money. He needs to get out from under that before he gets to bankruptcy court.
All right, so he's got these meetings. What do these meetings look like?
You know, I'm not sure we've ever seen meetings quite like this. The way that he describes it, everybody will be in the same room and everybody will get the plan at the same time. And part of the strategy here, I think, is to have the pensioners and the other retirees on one side of the table and the banks on the other side, and try to get them to see that anything more they want has got to come from the other side. That there's no money on the city side here. But there's nothing more they can do. Both sides are going to have to take substantial hits.
And there's no creditors committee under Chapter 9, so he's dealing with them as a group rather than as a committee that's picked a representative to negotiate with them, which is more common in a private bankruptcy. So, I mean, this thing could really be. It could really get out of hand.
It'll be interesting to see how many people just get up and walk out and say, you know what, we'll see you in court. We're not going to accept the terms of this. It's absurd. I've heard some of the numbers being sort of passed around. They are very, very low. Everybody is going to take a huge, huge hit according to this plan. And there may be some people who just say, I'm not going to.
And if the offer is too low, I mean, if it's 10 cents on the dollar, like, as we've heard, or even 30 cents on the dollar, as other reports have said, what's their incentive to take it and stay out of bankruptcy court? How much worse can they do in bankruptcy court?
Okay, so say that it does go to Chapter 9 and goes to bankruptcy, and so many people have been talking about, well, you know, GM had to go through bankruptcy, so perhaps Detroit would have to go through the same thing. Why is that different? Why can't we compare Detroit and a potential bankruptcy here to the bankruptcy at GM?
I mean, for starters, the rules are different. I mean, GM was a publicly traded but private business company that went through bankruptcy, Chapter 7, I think it was. This is go through Chapter 9, which is for municipalities. And the truth is, the creditors, one of the things the creditors will have in mind is that Chapter 9 is structured to favor the city very, very heavily. Creditors cannot come into the court under Chapter 9 and with their own plan for remedying the city's debt. The plan that Kevyn is giving them on Friday will be the plan that's the basis for the municipal bankruptcy. So there are a lot of reasons that I think he sees that as a hammer he can use against the creditors, against the pensioners, to say, if we go to the court, it's going to be my show anyway. This is the best I can do for you. You ought to take it.
But GM was a prepackaged bankruptcy. They had most of the creditors, as was Chrysler, most of the creditors on board before it ever went to court. It's going to be tough to get all of these individual creditors on board before it goes to court in a prepackaged bankruptcy. I think this is going to look more like a traditional bankruptcy. It's going to drag on and on and on. It's not going to be settled in 18 months as Kevyn Orr would hope. This is going to extend well beyond his tenure. It's going to cost a fortune. it's going to be really tragic for the city.
You know, and it's going to bring in, again, those jewels of the city that people keep talking about, whether it's the DIA or Kevyn Orr did, again, mention Belle Isle and the possibility of leasing that out as well.
That's a done deal, I think. That Belle Isle is going to be leased. But that's $6 million. You know, that's
Which
not,
is
about 15 billion.
yeah,
tiny fraction.
That's $6 million on a, you know, towards the operating deficit of what, 150 million. So I mean, it's a good move. You got to say $1 million here and $1 million there. It adds up, but there's going to be some big actions taken, and it's not going to be painless for the people.
All right, well, let's move on. Let's turn now to the man behind the NSA leak. News that the government collects phone logs of millions of Americans without warrants. Among other vast data mining around the world has people talking about privacy. The source of the leak? 29-year-old contractor Edward Snowden, who fled to Hong Kong and has now dropped out of sight. Is he a hero for exposing this, or is he a traitor for betraying his country and his employer? People are talking an awful lot about that. What do you think?
He's a source, and thank God for, you know, sources. I'm agnostic on whether he's
The
a
newspaper
hero,
man says.
hero or a traitor. I mean, obviously, if you have security clearance and you're in a trusted position with the government, you shouldn't be stealing documents and leaking them out. I mean, that's on from a citizen's point of view. From a journalist's point of view, hey, keep it coming. My worry here is that the story is becoming about Snowden instead about the fact that the government is mining vast phone records and email records and keeping this sort of unprecedented surveillance of all of the people. I mean, it is unconscionable. And if we allow the story to be about Snowden and not about what the NSA is doing, I think we make a huge mistake.
All right, but before we go on to the larger issue, do you think that he is just a source, like Nolan said, or should he be punished?
He's clearly a source. I mean, he may have also committed espionage, which he should be punished for if they can catch him. It seems like he's doing a pretty good job right now of eluding everybody. But I mean, I think Nolan's right. This gets to this bigger picture of the things that we all agreed to when we amended the Espionage Act, when we amended the Foreign Intelligence Securities Act, when we passed the Patriot Act after 9/11. There was, everyone was afraid, and we agreed to things, I think, without really going through with a fine-tooth comb to see what exactly the implications of all of it were. Now we're seeing the government has the right under these laws, and there's nothing I've seen that suggests they don't, to go in and collect all this data.
Yeah. But I think once you see it though put in front of you and you see that the vast nature of it though, it makes you stop.
Well, of course, we should have been paying attention in the beginning, and Steve was a voice against it. I was a voice against many of the aspects of the Patriot Act for this very reason. And I think there's a twist here, though, because it comes at the same time we've had these other revelations about the government snooping on reporters and harassing, using the IRS to harass groups. If you're going to entrust a government with this sort of power, you have to trust the government not to abuse that power. And given what we've seen with the IRS and with the AP and Fox News, I'm not sure that trust exists.
So the Patriot Act did not start with the Obama administration, but the Obama administration is now taking the brunt of a lot of this.
Well, because they've continued, I mean, they've continued the same kind of policies that the Bush administration instituted under the Patriot Act. There has been almost no difference from this perspective in terms of national security and aggressive pursuit of particularly espionage between the Bush administration and the Obama administration. Ari Fleischer, Bush's first press secretary, said last night on television that he feels like this is the fourth Bush administration in some ways, that this stuff has just been going on for a really long time, and it's an executive, strong executive view of our constitutional republic.
And it's a lesson about expansion of unchecked expansion of presidential power. No president,
never get it back.
They never give it up.
No. Yeah. That's right.
All right. Well, let's real quick talk about some interesting moves in Lansing. A new Medicaid expansion bill is moving, much to the Tea Party's dismay. And big gas prices may mean no one really wants to talk about gas taxes for road repair. So let's go ahead and talk first about Medicaid and what's going on.
Well, they've put a compromise. The House Republicans have to their credit, put a compromise bill on the table. They address a number of the concerns Democrats have had. They address most of the issues Rick Snyder wanted. And you remember, just a week or two ago, we were talking about, oh, well, Rick Snyder has lost control of the legislature, can't get his agenda passed. Well, here you go. This bill will probably pass with bipartisan votes. It won't get all Republicans to vote for it, won't get all Democrats to vote for it, but I think they're going to cobble together a majority, and sometime in the next week or two, we're going to have a Medicaid expansion bill.
Tea Party groups aren't very thrilled. They wrote a letter to the governor and said, well, we're not going to support you. Is that a big problem for him?
Well, they're going to go to vote for Mark Schauer next year. I mean, he's got to learn. He's got to learn that one of the cudgels he has is that he represents them for better or worse, and they don't have a lot of options elsewhere. They don't have the money to challenge him in a primary, so it's not a real threat.
So is the Medicaid expansion bill, is this a good compromise?
I think it's a decent compromise, and I think it shows that the governor is starting to learn how to do this sort of thing, how to compromise and put bipartisan coalitions together when he can't get his own caucus to go along in unison.
And he shouldn't have to. The bill shouldn't have to pass only with one party.
They've
vote.
done almost everything that way.
You've got opposition from folks, from some Republicans who rightly worry about adding $2 billion in cost to the state with no guarantee that the federal government's going to always pick it up. That suddenly falls on the state budget. Goodbye higher ed, goodbye K-12. It's going to consume the whole budget.
But also,
and you have Democrats worried about some of the provisions that would require Medicaid recipients to pay part of their own health care in 3 to 5 in 4 years, I guess it is. So I mean, there's worry on both sides. This is a good middle ground.
It's a decent compromise, and I would say it's a feather in his cap if he gets it done. He's still got 2 other big things on his agenda that need to be done. So let's hold the applause yet.
Okay, we'll hold the applause yet, and still nothing for roads right now,
Nothing.
especially when you look at the gas prices right now.
They're also working on that deal. They're also working on that deal.
I think he's learning how to do that, and that's a very important milestone for this governor who has so far not had to do this in the previous 2 years.
But credit the legislative leadership as well. I mean, they're listening. Are working together, and they're working toward the middle.
All right. Well, you know what? It's that time of the show. It's time for some headlines. All right, it's time to look at some of the other headlines that caught our attention this week. Nolan, what'd you see?
Well, you recall last year during the presidential campaign, Barack Obama poked fun at Texas Governor Rick Perry, saying, here's a guy whose state's burning down and he's denying global warming. Well, it turns out we got a report out last week from the National Atmospheric and Oceanic Administration, federal agency, that says those Texas wildfires and the drought weren't caused by global warming at all. It was a shift in the Gulf Stream. Global warming had nothing to do with it.
Poor Rick Perry could have been president today.
Could have been.
Shift in the Gulf Stream is also about climate
Absolutely
change.
not.
It's climate change. It's all climate change.
The NAOA said specifically nothing to do with climate change.
Right.
That stream has been shifting since the dinosaurs.
All right, how about
We're wearing tank tops in November in Michigan. That's when they'll believe.
Speaking about.
I hope so.
I hope not. Speaking about presidential race,
the tank tops of the warm.
The tank top. No. Hillary Clinton joined Twitter this week. I know, Nolan, you're probably already following her.
I did not know that.
And on the list of things describing who she is, of course, mother, lawyer, former first lady, pantsuit aficionado. It also says hair icon, and then it says ... TBD, to be determined. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe she's starting to drop hints about 2016.
She's going to be awfully long in the tooth in 2016. She's going to be the same age John McCain was when his age was a major issue in the presidential campaign.
Age means nothing. Age means nothing for ability,
she won't be older
correct?
than Reagan was when he was elected, though.
I think she will be.
No,
I think she will
just
be.
by a hair.
All right, Stephen, you got 20 seconds.
Mine is 2 studies, one in Britain, one in the United States, that show smarter people drink more.
Drink more water?
Drink more alcohol, which I think explains the Bourbon Party success up on Mackinac a couple of years ago, or a couple of weeks ago. Right?
We'll have to investigate that for next year as well. All right, thanks, guys, and that is going to do it for MiWeek. We're so glad that you could join us tonight. Remember, we're on Facebook and Twitter, so you can get your MiWeek fix during the week. You don't have to wait until Friday. All of the shows you might have missed are at MiWeek.org, and for all of us at Detroit Public Television, I'm Christy McDonald. Have a great weekend. Come back and see us next week.